Okay, today, we begin with a question that often lingers silently in the background of our fast-moving lives. In a world filled with endless scrolling, constant notifications, and the pressure to always keep up, have you ever felt as if you were caught in a current stronger than yourself? Like a river pulling you forward no matter how fiercely you try to resist. This sensation is not just a symptom of modern life. It is an ancient recognition of the relationship between fate and human effort. Here on Stoic Dhamma, we journey into timeless wisdom and contemplative storytelling, seeking stillness amidst the noise and clarity in the face of uncertainty. We return to the voices of philosophers who lived thousands of years ago, yet somehow still speak to us in the present. In today's exploration, we turn to Cleanthes of Assos, one of the early leaders of the Stoic school. His words about fate and human destiny remind us that, while the currents of life cannot be fully controlled, our way of moving within them shapes our freedom, our peace, and ultimately our destiny. Cleanthes of Assos once composed a hymn that has carried its resonance across the centuries. Lead me, Zeus, and you, destiny, wherever you have assigned me. These were not the casual words of a detached thinker. They were born from a life marked by hardship, endurance, and profound reflection. To Cleanthes, fate was not an enemy to resist, but a companion guiding every step along life's path. Cleanthes lived in the 3rd century BCE, when Stoic philosophy was still taking shape under the influence of Zeno of Citium. As Zeno's student, he did not simply inherit abstract theories, he was asked to embody them fully. Unlike thinkers who spoke from comfort, Cleanthes labored at night as a water carrier, reserving the day for study. His philosophy was forged not in luxury, but in sweat, endurance, and quiet humility. This background gives weight to his words. When Cleanthes reflected on destiny, he did so as someone who had faced necessity directly, who had learned to bow to circumstances while still preserving his freedom of response. His hymn, offered as a prayer to Zeus, reveals the Stoic conviction that the universe is rational, ordered, and infused with divine reason, the Logos. To follow fate, then, is not blind surrender but an act of alignment, a willingness to walk the path already woven into the fabric of existence. Now imagine yourself standing by the bank of a river. The current is fast, relentless, and instinctively you dig your heels into the earth, bracing against its pull. But the harder you resist, the more your body strains, the less progress you make. The Stoics suggest another approach. Allow the current to carry you, not in passive collapse but in willing cooperation. Resistance only exhausts. Flowing with it conserves energy, strength, and dignity. The metaphor is ancient, yet the river continues to flow through modern life. Today, it takes the form of relentless deadlines, the sting of sudden misfortunes, or the silent inevitability of aging. Each moment presents currents we cannot control, and often we equate freedom with defiance, believing that to be free is to bend the current, to master every detail. But Cleanthes challenges this belief. Freedom, he insists, lies not in conquering the current, but in shaping our response within it. This brings us to a question that lingers in our modern world of screens and endless choices. Are we truly free, or are we following scripts shaped by forces beyond us? Each time we scroll curated feeds, echo cultural trends, or pursue standards of success we never chose, we must ask, are these authentic decisions, or simply currents carrying us along? Cleanthes would answer that fate does not erase freedom. It provides its stage. The script of events may be set, yet the performance, our tone, our courage, our response, remains our own. Destiny, then, is both bounded and open, filled with possibility in how we live. Consider how this changes our view of failure. When a project collapses, when a relationship ends, or when health falters, our first instinct is to see only loss. Yet through the Stoic lens, these moments are not the end of freedom. They are simply turns in the river, shifts in the current. The question that matters is not whether the course changes, but how we respond to the new flow, with bitterness or with resilience and grace. In Stoic thought, acceptance is never weakness. It is not apathy or retreat, but clarity. Cleanthes, a man of labor and discipline, embodied this truth. Acceptance meant discerning where effort mattered, directing energy toward what we control, and loosening our hold on what lies beyond. From this seed grew the later Stoic idea of amor fati, not mere endurance, but a loving embrace of life's entire pattern. Modern science, in its own way, affirms this ancient intuition. Neuroscience reveals that choices often arise before conscious awareness. Social science shows how culture sculpts desires we mistake for personal. The Stoics sensed this. Unseen currents shape our lives. Yet, even within this current, freedom is real. Not freedom to stop the flow or erase its direction, but freedom to choose how we move within it. Will we deny the current and be dragged under by exhaustion? Or will we navigate with grace, steering where we can and releasing the rest? It is a quieter kind of freedom, but one that endures. From this perspective, fate becomes less a cruel overseer and more a teacher. It asks us to see clearly, to distinguish illusion from truth, control from surrender. It reminds us that dignity is not found in forcing the universe to obey, but in harmonizing our steps with what is already unfolding. Cleanthes' hymn becomes more than a prayer. It is a meditation, a compass for any soul seeking calm in a turbulent world. Picture the river once more. The water is unyielding, flowing whether we resist or not. On its surface lies reflection, light and shadow mingling, calmness and turbulence intertwined. To fight against it is to exhaust every drop of strength, but to float with intention, to paddle with wisdom, is to move forward with peace. This is the Stoic vision. Fate as water, choice as the art of navigating. And so we arrive at a deeper question. If fate sets the course, if destiny writes the script, what role is left for us? Why act? Why strive? Why hope? If so much lies beyond our command. Cleanthes gives us a quiet answer, because our freedom does not lie in altering the flow. It lies in how we move within it. From here, we turn to the deeper logic of Stoicism, the reasoning that convinced the ancients that fate was not a threat to human dignity, but its very foundation. Before stepping forward, pause for a moment. Imagine the river once more. Will you resist its pull, fighting with futility? Or will you allow yourself to be led, not as a prisoner dragged unwillingly, but as a traveler in harmony with the current of life? When Cleanthes lifted his voice in the hymn to Zeus, he was not speaking in isolation. He was echoing a broader Stoic conviction that fate is woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. For the Stoics, the universe was not random chaos, but a living, rational order guided by logos, the divine reason pervading all things. To follow fate was to follow nature itself. Cleanthes lived simply, with little more than discipline and perseverance. As the successor to Zeno of Citium, he embodied the harsh clarity of Stoic life. He knew hardship intimately, drawing water by night to afford his studies by day. Yet rather than cursing circumstance, he embraced it as his teacher. His famous prayer, asking Zeus and destiny to lead him, was not resignation. It was a conscious alignment with what Stoics saw as cosmic necessity. This philosophy, however, demands careful understanding. To modern ears, it may sound like fatalism, the belief that everything is predetermined and human effort is meaningless. But Stoicism draws a sharper distinction. The Stoics did not deny human freedom, they relocated it. They argued that freedom does not lie in altering the course of events, but in shaping our response to them. Epictetus, a later Stoic, carried forward this idea with striking clarity. Born into slavery, he lacked control over his status, body, and fortune. Yet he insisted that no master could touch his will. "You may chain my leg," he suggested, "but not my spirit." Here lies the essence of Stoic freedom. External events are the river. The inner choice is how we navigate its current. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, echoed the same conviction centuries later. Burdened with war, plague, and the weight of empire, he still wrote in his meditations that the universe is change, and life is opinion. He accepted destiny's unfolding, but insisted that his judgment, his values, and his reason remained his own. Cleanthes' hymn found its imperial echo in Marcus's private notes. The logic of Stoicism rests on an unshakable trust in nature's order. If the cosmos is rational, then whatever happens belongs within that rational plan, even suffering, even death. This trust transforms adversity into opportunity. To lose wealth is not catastrophe, but training in simplicity. To face illness is not punishment, but a chance to exercise courage. Fate provides the material. Reason provides the craft. Now consider the alternative. If the world is random, if events strike without meaning, then despair is near at hand. Why strive if nothing holds coherence? The Stoics saw this despair as more dangerous than fate itself. By affirming that the universe is ordered, they offered not certainty of outcomes, but assurance of meaning. Fate, in their eyes, was not a blind force, but a guiding thread. In this sense, Cleanthes' hymn reflects more than a personal devotion. It represents an entire worldview where human destiny is inseparable from cosmic necessity. We are not isolated agents floating in a void. We are parts of a vast living whole. Our task is not to dominate the whole, but to harmonize with it. Some might object, if everything is fated, does effort matter? The Stoic answer is subtle. Effort is itself part of fate. The choice you make, the resilience you show, the values you embody, all are woven into the unfolding tapestry. You are not a spectator, but a participant, and your actions are threads of destiny itself. This paradox, where fate determines all, yet freedom still matters, remains one of the most challenging aspects of Stoic thought. But the ancients reconciled it with a simple analogy. Imagine a dog tied to a moving cart. If the dog resists, it is dragged. If it follows, it runs freely. Fate is the cart, necessity pulling forward. Freedom is the choice to walk willingly rather than be pulled. Today, this image still resonates. Think of the moments when resisting reality only deepens suffering, clinging to a lost job, fighting against aging, refusing to accept a painful truth. Each struggle adds chains to the heart. Yet when acceptance enters, even grief softens. Even hardship reveals new paths. Cleanthes invites us to run with the cart of destiny, not be dragged by it. The Stoic embrace of fate does not diminish the individual. On the contrary, it elevates inner strength. By narrowing freedom to what lies within, our thoughts, attitudes, and actions, it empowers us to master the only domain truly ours. All else belongs to the cosmos. This is why Marcus Aurelius could rule an empire yet confess he controlled almost nothing. His freedom was internal, untouched by fortune or misfortune. This perspective also reframes morality. If fate governs external events, then virtue alone remains in our hands. Wealth, fame, and power are indifferent, granted or taken by destiny. But courage, justice, wisdom, and self-control, these depend on us. Thus, the Stoic path leads not to passivity, but to a radical commitment to virtue. Science, too, lends echoes to this ancient reasoning. Modern physics suggests a universe bound by laws, unfolding with vast inevitability. Neuroscience shows how much of our behavior arises from hidden processes beyond conscious control. Yet amid these constraints, awareness and choice still shape outcomes. The Stoic insight, that freedom lives in response rather than circumstance, finds resonance even now. So when Cleanthes prayed to be led by Zeus and destiny, he was not erasing human dignity. He was affirming it. To walk willingly with fate is to acknowledge the river, and yet claim mastery of one's oar. The Stoic logic transforms destiny from prison into pathway, from burden into harmony. From here we turn to application. It is one thing to reflect on cosmic order and human freedom. It is another to live it daily, in work, in relationships, and in the quiet depths of the mind. Cleanthes' words call us not only to contemplate fate, but to embody acceptance as a living practice. That is the bridge into modern life, where Stoic wisdom still breathes. In the rush of our modern world, destiny can feel abstract, like a relic of ancient thought. Yet the Stoic view of fate is not about superstition. It is about living wisely amid forces beyond control. Cleanthes' prayer to Zeus may sound distant, but its meaning finds echoes in every workplace, every relationship, every silent moment of reflection. To embrace fate today is to live with clarity and strength. Work is one of the first places where this wisdom becomes tangible. Careers rarely unfold as planned. Promotions are delayed. Projects collapse. Industries shift overnight. The temptation is to rage against these turns, clinging to what might have been. Yet Stoic philosophy teaches that while outcomes are shaped by fate, effort remains ours. The discipline to act with excellence, to learn from setbacks, to adapt with dignity, these are threads of freedom woven into destiny's fabric. Imagine the worker who loses his job in a sudden corporate restructuring. At first, despair overwhelms him. Yet slowly he recalls the Stoic teaching. Control what is within, release what is not. Instead of drowning in bitterness, he turns to new skills, new paths. Months later, he finds a role more aligned with his values. The loss, painful though it was, became an opening. Fate closed one door, but resilience turned it into a threshold. In relationships, the Stoic lesson runs deep. We cannot command the hearts or choices of others. Love may come and go. Friendships may fade. Families may wound us. Clinging to control only magnifies suffering. Peace arises when we release this illusion and focus instead on patience, compassion, and integrity. Imagine a father watching his adult son take a path he cannot accept. His instinct is to argue, to impose his will. But he recalls Epictetus, another's will is beyond your power. So he shifts, offering presence instead of pressure, love without condition. Over time, this quiet constancy becomes true influence, stronger than command. Beyond work and relationships, the deepest application of fate lies in the inner world. Life is filled with uncertainty. Illness, aging, accidents, unexpected turns. If we resist this truth, we spend our days in fear. But if we welcome it as part of the river of destiny, fear loosens its grip. Cleanthes invites us to walk with fate as a companion, not an enemy. Acceptance turns anxiety into courage and grief into wisdom. One simple practice is the Stoic exercise of journaling. At day's end, you write 2 lists: what lay within your control and what did not. This daily mindfulness clarifies the boundaries of effort. Over time, the mind grows calmer, less reactive. Small frustrations, traffic jams, rude comments, shifting plans lose their sting. You no longer demand that the world obey you. You align yourself with reality, and peace follows. Another practice is morning meditation on impermanence. Before the day begins, you reflect on life's fragile nature, not with despair, but with gratitude. Each breath, each encounter, each chance to serve becomes a gift, not a guarantee. Marcus Aurelius urged himself to greet each morning as if it might be his last. This awareness sharpens focus, softens resentment, and awakens presence. Evening reflection also carries power. As night falls, the Stoics suggest reviewing the day, not to condemn, but to learn. Where did you resist fate with anger? Where did you embrace it with acceptance? This gentle accounting strengthens the spirit over time. Each day becomes a classroom, each event a lesson in aligning with destiny. The Stoic view of fate reshapes how we face adversity. Instead of asking, "Why me?" the question becomes, "How can I use this?" Hardship is not a curse, but raw material for growth. A failed business venture cultivates patience. A harsh critic teaches humility. Illness, sudden and unwelcome, awakens gratitude for each fragile breath of health. Nothing is wasted. Everything belongs to the path. Modern science quietly affirms this ancient wisdom. Despite all our advances, uncertainty still rules. Markets rise and fall, climates shift, health falters. Control is always partial, often illusory, yet freedom endures in our response. Neuroscience shows how mindfulness rewires the brain, enabling calmer choices. Psychology confirms that acceptance-based practices ease suffering. Cleanthes' hymn to destiny now finds echoes in laboratory findings. Picture a man crushed by the weight of city life. Deadlines pile up, messages ping endlessly, exhaustion sets in. Then he begins a Stoic ritual. 10 quiet minutes each morning to breathe, to list what he can and cannot control. Slowly, clarity emerges. He no longer fights every current, he sails with intention. Applying fate in modern life is not passive surrender. It is active engagement with reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Cleanthes' hymn does not call us to sit idle, waiting for destiny to unfold. It calls us to walk willingly, eyes open, heart steady, hands ready. Fate provides the stage, we choose how to act upon it. The beauty of this practice is that it scales. It applies to global crises as much as daily irritations. A pandemic reshapes society, yet individuals choose kindness or cruelty. A storm destroys a home, yet the family chooses despair or resilience. The Stoic lens does not deny grief, but it frames grief as part of the larger harmony. Even loss belongs to the river of destiny. This way of living gradually rewires the spirit. Instead of constant resistance, there is flow. Instead of clinging, there is release. Instead of panic, there is calm determination. Cleanthes' words, though ancient, offer a practical map for 21st century life. They remind us that destiny is not a chain, but a current, not a prison, but a pathway. From here, we turn to broader lessons. What Cleanthes began with his hymn becomes a gateway into a deeper journey, one that stretches beyond the individual, beyond even the Stoics themselves. In the next reflection, we gather these threads into wisdom that speaks across ages, offering not only acceptance but also courage for the unknown. The words of Cleanthes reach us across centuries, yet their meaning is not bound to antiquity. They are not fossilized relics from a ruined temple, but living seeds planted in the soil of human destiny. To meditate on his hymn to Zeus is to step into a river that still flows, carrying both the weight of history and the promise of tomorrow. From here, we turn to the broader lessons hidden within his call to embrace fate. The first lesson is strength. Cleanthes teaches that strength is not the absence of hardship, but the stance we take within it. Fate will lead us, whether we resist or not. When we yield, burden turns into harmony. The Stoics knew suffering grows heavier when we demand life obey our desires. Release that illusion of control, and trials become lighter. Not because they vanish, but because we cease dragging against them. Picture a sailor on the Aegean caught in sudden winds. He cannot master the storm, yet he can adjust his sail, balance his weight, and trust his vessel. So it is with life. Destiny is the wind, and we must cooperate with it rather than fight it. This vision, true for sailors of old, remains true for anyone navigating uncertainty today. The second lesson is courage. To walk with fate requires a steady heart. Our world is marked by change. Technologies shift, economies tremble, relationships drift. The instinct is to cling, to demand certainty from what refuses to give it. Cleanthes offers another way. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward with it. Acceptance is not surrender, but steadiness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that obstacles could become fuel for growth. Seneca declared that he who yields to fate walks with it, while he who resists is dragged. Together they teach that the brave soul does not curse what cannot be changed, but asks how it can be used. Fate is no enemy. It is the sculptor of resilience. The third lesson is compassion. Acceptance of fate is not cold detachment, but the ground where empathy takes root. When we see that each person moves within forces beyond their control, judgment softens. We notice not only choices but also conditions, not only actions but also hidden pressures. To live in harmony with destiny is to grant others the dignity of their struggles, knowing they too are carried by the same river. A stranger cuts in line, a colleague lashes out. The instinct is to retaliate, yet a Stoic pause opens another path. Perhaps they are weighed down by unseen burdens. Cleanthes' teaching thus becomes more than self-guidance. It builds a bridge of compassion. By accepting our own fate, we learn to accept the fate of others. This is not indulgence, but wisdom, an awareness that all humanity shares the same current. The fourth lesson is freedom. The Stoics knew that resisting the inevitable binds us more tightly than acceptance. To deny death makes it haunt us. To deny loss lets grief consume us. But embracing these truths loosens fear's grip. Life grows lighter, moments more precious. Cleanthes calls us to live not as prisoners of anxiety, but as companions of time. Picture a traveler delayed at an airport. Frustration rises, plans collapse. Then comes a shift. Acceptance. The delay cannot be changed, but the traveler can. They read, reflect, or rest. The world is the same, yet freedom arises, not from control, but from surrender. The fifth lesson is participation. Cleanthes' hymn does not call us to idle waiting, but to purposeful living. Fate sets the stage, yet the play is not complete. Our character, our choices, and our courage provide the script. The Stoics never taught retreat from life, but urged deep engagement, guided by wisdom rather than illusion. To embrace fate is to act with awareness of limits while exercising freedom where it truly exists. The balance is delicate. Too much resignation leads to apathy, while too much control becomes self-deception. The art of Stoic living lies between these extremes, rowing with strength while acknowledging the current. To trust destiny is not to abandon effort, but to direct it toward what can genuinely be shaped. The sixth lesson is transcendence. Cleanthes' prayer to Zeus may not resonate for all in its religious form, yet beneath it lies a truth that transcends time. Humans have always sought meaning beyond themselves. Whether through gods, nature, or the cosmos, we recognize that life is part of a tapestry too vast to fully grasp. To align with fate is to honor this mystery, walking humbly in awareness that we are both fleeting and significant. This vision brings perspective. The loss of a job, though painful, is not the end of existence. A failed relationship is not the end of meaning. Like stars forming constellations, our lives belong to a greater pattern, one that requires no control to be beautiful. The final lesson is continuity. Cleanthes' words endure because they address perennial human questions. Do we shape destiny, or does destiny shape us? His hymn still resonates not because it resolves the tension, but because it balances it. We live at the intersection of fate and freedom, carried yet choosing, finite yet meaningful. Across centuries, the same search continues, and his wisdom still lights the way. From these lessons, a new way unfolds. Fate is not a weight to bear, but a guide to follow. Not a sentence, but a song. Cleanthes and the Stoics call us to listen, to walk with calm, and to live with courage. Amid the noise of our age, their wisdom reminds us, destiny is no enemy, but the current of existence waiting for us to sail with grace. We close not with an ending, but an invitation. The lessons of Cleanthes are not relics of the past, but companions for every choice, every change, every breath. To carry them is to see acceptance not as weakness, but as strength, not resignation, but freedom, not silence, but harmony. Fate is not a heavy chain that imprisons us, but a vast stage where life quietly unfolds. Cleanthes teaches that fulfillment is not achieved by resisting what destiny brings, but by learning to move in rhythm with it. When we align ourselves with life's natural current, we discover not weakness but a deeper strength, an inner peace and the subtle joy that comes with acceptance. As you carry these reflections into your daily life, try a small yet powerful practice. Each evening, write down 3 things you cannot control and 3 things you truly can. Over time, this mindful habit will transform philosophy into lived experience, guiding you toward resilience instead of resistance. If today's journey has offered you meaning, please like, share, and subscribe to Stoic Dhamma, so we may continue exploring wisdom together. Our next chapter invites silence itself to speak. Let silence reveal true wisdom.
References 1. Long, A.A., 2018. Stoicism and the Art of Happiness. Cambridge University Press. Point 2. Irvine, W.B., 2019. A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy. Oxford University Press. Point 3. Sellers, J., 2020. Stoicism, A Very Short Introduction. Oxford University Press.